Good morning. Hello, everyone. I see your comments coming in, and I'm just so thrilled to have you on with me today. Welcome to all of you. We're going to do a project this morning, and you know what? It's flowers because it's spring and we need some color. So we've got lots of color today. I picked all the bright colors I could find, and we're going to put together a little scene. And I like to throw these in every now and then to kind of mix it up. So I've used a lot of stamps, and you can switch them out, of course, but I like to challenge you sometimes to think outside of the box a little bit. And I had an opportunity to do that today. So that's what we're going to do. But just because we're using lots of stamps doesn't mean that it's hard. It's not hard. It's all the same. And there's no beginner, middle, and advanced. There's none of that. It's all beginner because everything follows the same rules. And once you get that down, you're ready to go. And we just break it down into sections, and pretty soon you've created an entire scene. So we're going to do that today. But first, I got to say hi to all my people who are on here and say welcome to all of you. Okay, Kathy is on. Hello, Kathy. Judy says, finally able to make a live. We are thrilled to have you, Judy. Thanks for being on with us. Good morning, Elaine. She is from just down the road in Albany, Oregon. Hello, Irene from Osage County, Oklahoma. Did I say that right? Osage County, Oklahoma. Welcome. Terry, hello. Jeanette, hello. 72 today in Michigan. Wow, that's better than yesterday. She was on with me yesterday, and I think it was pretty cold and, overcast. Debbie, hello, sunny Salem, and she's ready to paint. Okay. Who's going to paint with me today? You guys, get your things out. So you've got 10 minutes in the mornings. When we first start the live, to pull out all of your things. If you don't have everything, it's okay. Just switch out something that you do have. Basically, it's technique, and it's giving you an idea of how to put things together. That's really what it is. And then you can use things that you have. So if there's a structure, you pick a structure that you have if you don't have the specific one that I'm using. So it's all just learning. It's all just inspiration and fun. It's so much fun. Okay, so Joy is on from Wildemar, California. Hello. Ruth Ann is in the house. Hello, Ruth Ann. Kathy, hello. Carol, good morning. Ellen, welcome. Hello. Is on. I'm looking forward to our Watercolor Wednesday. Me too. Me too, Terry. Always look forward to these lives. They're so much fun. Linda, she is in Wisconsin. Good morning, Linda. And Simone, actually, it's probably afternoon now in Wisconsin. So good afternoon. Diana, sunny, warm San Jose. Warm here today too, you guys. It is beautiful. A beautiful day in the 70s. When it is sunny in Oregon, it is beautiful. Let's see, who else? Diane, hello. Sunny San Francisco. Welcome, Diane. And Lori, hello. Gilbert, probably sunny there. Cindy from Kansas. Janice, good morning. Sandy, she says, good morning. Happy blessed day. Yes, it is. Barbara from Idaho. Hello. Teresa from Turlock. Welcome. Margaret from sunny Ohio. It rained all day yesterday. Yep. We get those days too. Sometimes spring days are just rain, and five minutes later it's something else. So Teresa, hello. Kristen, good morning. And everyone else from Blaine, Washington. 57 degrees. Okay. Well, you know what? Is the sun out, Kristen? Because that would be a good thing. Terry says, have all the stamps out, ready to try and keep up. Yay, that is awesome, you guys. This is a really simple combination, and I just, I'll kind of explain more why I picked what I did. But, pick things that you have. If you don't have everything, that doesn't mean you can't follow along. Just pick something that you have and substitute. Okay, let's see. Raining in time. Hello. Good morning, everyone. Wishing you all a beautiful Mother's Day weekend. as we spend time with loved ones and memories of those we'll see later. Absolutely. Well said. It is Mother's Day on Sunday and time to celebrate. Mary, good morning from Michigan. Sandy, and today is her birthday. Oh my goodness, Sandy, happy birthday to you from all of us, all of your AI family. Happy birthday to you. Debbie says, I am so in love when you teach us how to do scenes. You know what, you guys? I love scenes too. And I love things that are a little bit more complicated because I like to challenge you. And I like to pick things from different sets and put them together. And it's amazing the combinations that you can come up with, honestly. And so that's the fun thing for me. Pick something from some set and add it to what you have and create this sort of, combination scene. And it's really just to give you those ideas. So those are really fun. I also like the simple projects that are done in just a few minutes. So I try to really mix it up. And now Kim started way back Wednesdays. So she is loving that. Those are, pretty simple projects, and they are bringing back things that maybe you have, in a drawer and you haven't used in a while, and sort of mixing them up and making something new with it. And that has been really fun because we come out with new things all the time, and sometimes some of the best things are kind of put aside for the new things, and getting some of these older things out is a really good idea, and you'll be surprised what you have that you can use in some of these scenes. So that's been a really fun thing that she's started doing, and so she's been on more often on Watercolor Wednesday, and then I come on and I do things that are maybe a little bit more challenging. So it's been really fun to sort of mix it up like that. So we just, we want to just inspire you, whether it's simple things or complex things. That's just, I feel like that's just my job, is to just inspire you to create. So Debbie, I'm with you. I love the scenes too. Karen says hello from British Columbia. Hello, Karen. Peggy is on today. Shelly from sunny Florida. Good to have you. Okay, let's see who else is on. Veronica, good morning. Sunny Belgium. Okay, what time is it in Belgium, Veronica? Let us know. I'm saying good morning to you, but who knows what time it is there. Okay, you guys, are we ready? Pamela, good morning. Cherie, hello. Jane, happy Mother's Day to you too. And Tony is on. Okay, you guys, let's get to our project. We are going to have a fun time doing this one. It looks like it's complicated, but it really isn't. It's really not, and you'll be surprised if you do this with me. So let's switch over and let's get to our project. Look at all the stuff I've used. You guys, I tried to pull things out that I haven't used in a while. And I think that, pulling some of these things out, they sort of, get new life. And you're like, why in the world haven't I been using the stamp? Because I love it. So I'm going to try to keep that in mind when I do things too, because you don't have to necessarily get every new thing that comes out. It's really fun to do that. But there are a lot of things that have come out in the past that you can sort of resurrect. Or maybe you haven't thought of something that, we came out with maybe a year or two ago, and you're seeing it with new eyes and thinking, wow, I really love that. So that's sort of what our, mindset has been lately. And I'm trying to do that too, and pulling things out that I haven't used in a while, including, look at this amount of pens also. Lots of pens, lots of colors. And again, if you don't have these specific ones, you don't have this pink pick a pink green that you have. All right. And it's going to be a fun project today. So let's move everything out of the way so that we have some room to work. Here is the project. So let me just move all of this, and then we'll sort of go through the things that we're going to be using. And let me zoom in a little bit so that you can see what we're doing here. And you can see this little scene. It's really simple, and that you can see the three components to it. There's the background. This is sort of, the background. Then we have something in the middle, which is this fence line. And then we have something larger in the foreground. So if you think about that, sometimes you can do away with the middle ground, but I want you to see that you can also put it in. You can put it in just like this with something like a fence or a path or maybe a pot, something that could, kind of go in the middle ground and then come into the foreground with something that's big, like these little florals. And really this little bird bath too. It's pretty good sized, but it's similar to in perspective to the fence. So that's why I put it fairly close to the fence line here. And then of course our little cottage in the background and these flowers in the foreground. So, and we can also sort of mimic this fence by putting a small one in the background, and that pushes this all back too. So you kind of think of it that way. If it's confusing to you or it's intimidating, put it in a box like this. Just put it in a box and you will have your parameters, and it's much easier to see it and manage it as to where everything's going. Where does the grass line end? Where do the hills end? Where does the fence go? And if you can put it in a boundary like this, it's so much less intimidating, way much less intimidating. Than if you try to just, create it in a scene and then you just sort of let things fade out, which you can also do. All right. Also, spring it up with a, cherry blossom or a dogwood, something like that to really add some color to it. I think that really makes it pop. And you can add lots more. You can add lots more flowers in here, lots more flowers in the background. So I'm just giving you the idea of the back, the middle, and the foreground in something like this. And this is a portrait perspective, so that just means it's tall and not long. You could also do it that way. You could also do it, turn it like this and do it more of a landscape scene like this. Okay, so, and then I just put it inside a card because I just thought that it was so cute to be framed like that. And I went ahead and went a little bit larger on the square, and you can do that too. So you could easily extend the fence. If you want to go a little bit larger in the square and extend your scene out a little bit, you can easily add another dogwood, maybe a white one next to this one. You could add, something, larger growing over here, maybe another tree. You could extend the fence just by adding on to the little posts here. So you can just continue this over, and you could extend this really, really easily with your fence line and just continue everything over a little bit larger. Same on this side. You could kind of extend this, and I did it a little bit with these, but this kind of fades out over here to the edge. So we don't have to do as much with that. Okay, so that's sort of how I set it up. And now we just fill it in. So here's what it looks like when it's stamped. And the square box is 2 3/4 by 4 inches. That's the actual dimensions of the box. And again, you can make it however you want to. You can make the dimensions 4.5, which would also be really cute. I sort of always have in mind an A2 size card. So the 4 inches, that's pretty good as far as size goes. With the length of the card. And then 2 3/4, that's almost 3. That gives us a really good size on the inside of the card. And you can still cut out that opening and frame it in a card. So I think this is just a really good size. The thing is, if you get it too big, it can be a little intimidating to make everything look natural. You have to add a lot more things into the middle ground, and this seems to be a really good size as far as manageable, being able to manage it and be able to fill everything in. Okay, so here's what I used in this project. So the first thing is the little cottages. And this again, here you can see by the SKUs, I think we're at 60 something now, 60 some hundred as far as SKUs goes. This goes back to 4,900. So this goes back a ways, but these are such cute little structures. And if you've never used one of these, they're really a great size. So this is the actual size of this one. And it's a really nice size when you're putting in a background, but you want to make that little structure, a little larger. You want to be able to add more detail to it rather than putting a little structure way back in the hills somewhere, which you can also do. But this is a really nice set. It's got 3 little cottages in it, and this is the one that I used for this project. Let's see, here's the fence. So this didn't come out that long ago, but it is a really nice fence line, and it goes either direction. So you could go this way where you're sort of making it narrow this direction, or you can go the other. So however your eye sees it. I always see things going this direction, and so it's easier for me to use this fence line. So that's what I did. I have the larger section here, and it kind of fades back like this. But this is just a really nice size. And again, it's easy to add on to. You just extend these little posts here like this, and you can continue that fence line on really easily with a pencil. So again, it comes with this barn. So this is all one stamp, but I just inked the fence. I just inked the fence and put it sort of in the center, in the middle ground. And here's the little bird bath. Here's another thing with these is that this is really tiny to show you on the screen, but here's the actual size of it. This is a scenic foundation. This is all one stamp. So it has the tree, it has the creek, it has the little cottage, and it has this little bird bath. And it's a really, really nice size to use on its own. So keep that in mind with these especially. They have a lot of elements that can be used on their own, especially this little one. It's so cute with these 3 little birds on it. It's just great for a little cottage that can go in the foreground. You could completely skip the fence and you could just use this in the foreground. Would be so cute. Put a little watering can next to it or a pot next to it with tons of flowers. You could make a little stone wall here. You could just change it up so easily, but this is a great foreground. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. If you need something in the foreground that is just a really nice size, this is a great one to use. And so I just pulled this whole stamp out and I just inked this part right here, and I stamped it right there. So those are the 3 basic components of this little scene. So we've got a background, we've got a middle, and then we've got something that's more in the foreground. And then we can add, some florals. You can make this longer, and you can add some more florals in the foreground of this little project that are the largest. These should be the largest as far as perspective, that are right here at the bottom. Okay, so the tree is this tree from this set right here. However, you can use, there are a lot of trees that you could use. You could put some evergreen trees in here too, which would be really cute. This one works great for this because it's got just the right amount of branches that you can add this foliage to it. So the branches don't overwhelm the tree. And that's why these trees are kind of sparse like this, is because they're sort of made to have foliage on them. You add the leaves to it after you've stamped the trunk, and so there needs to be enough space to add those that foliage to the tree. So this one is these are just really nice, both of these, and I think I used the small one in this scene. But either one of these would be great. If you wanted to use the larger ones, you just would want to come down a little closer to the bottom. Maybe put it on this side so that that tree trunk can extend down a little farther, or just cut it off. Just cut it off and just use this part and make it shorter. You can also do that. Okay. As far as the florals go, florals and foliage, here's one that I pulled out that I haven't used in a long time. And I love this little thing. It's so cute. And I just forget I have these. And it makes this little cute, heart-shaped little floral that you could just kind of stamp in a circle. It works great. And that's what I use down here in the bottom of the fence. So this little one right here from Flower Set 2. And this one also would be really cute. You could use this one down here. The wildflowers would be cute. This one would also be really cute down here in the foreground. So these are all really good usable images. And this one is one of my all-time favorites. This I would say is a must-have because of the little trees. I've used these so many times in the background. This is one that would go more on the left. This would go more on the right. This tiny little grass works great. The leaves, is a must-have, and this. And I used both of these in this little scene. So here's the leaves right here. Here's what they make is, you know, this little leafy tree that is just so cute. And then this little border of foliage, it works great. And that's this little thing right here. I've used this little tree a million times. You know, this is just a great set to have. You'll use this a ton. You'll use it a ton if you don't have it already. Here's the first one. This is in almost every project. It really is, because of this and this. These are the go-tos all the time. So we're using this grass now in this project. And this one, I just got this out again recently. In fact, I just got it out for the project yesterday morning. And I love these stamps. I love them. I use this one a lot, but I haven't used this one in a long time. And it's a right and a left, so you can swing this whichever direction that you want. But these are they're so cute, and they just work great. And that's what I used in here, in this area right here, is this little stamp. And then, you know, also my go-to is the little branches. So we're going to be using those to create these little climbing bushes that kind of climb up the fence. And they work great because they're not too heavy as far as, you know, being able to, you know, needing to stamp over so many lines that we have in here. So when you've got a lot of lines that you need to stamp over, this works really great because it sort of spreads out the foliage and kind of thins it out so that it doesn't have to be so thick in here. So I use this a lot, especially if it's climbing on something like a fence or a post or just, you know, wherever. Here's the little foliage. This is also my go-to. I love these little vines. So one goes to the left, one goes to the right. They are great, just the tip for adding texture, adding foliage to things like this, making it a little sparse. They work for everything. So it's just a really good all around little border to have. I use these two almost all the time, almost in every project again. So that's what we're using. So I know it sounds like a ton, but there are probably a lot of things that you could use to substitute out. You could use a different vine if you don't have this vine. You could use lots of different florals, you know, in here. So we're going to use these. And then, like I said, you can switch it up to something else that maybe you have. Let's see if we can just open this and keep this inside the screen so you can kind of see where we're going here. Okay, so, and I can see that did I measure this right? I can see that this one is a little bit longer. So let me just make sure that I did this right. Okay, so the reason it looks longer is because of the edge. So the first thing that we do always with these is mask them off. And so we just take a piece of Post-it tape like this, and we just cover the edge. We just cover the edge so that we can stamp and not get ink on the edge, and it leaves us with this really nice white border. See, it's really nice white border around here. It sort of finishes the art, makes it look like just a little painting. But I think the inside is the same. Let me take this off and then I'll measure it and just to make sure. But I think it's 4 inches. So we'll cover this one. And then what I do with these is I just cut a piece of cardstock that is 2 3/4 by 4 inches. And then I trace around it. Then I get a perfect square every time, because if I try to measure, most of the time it's wonky. So that works for me. And then I put a number on it, and then I just keep it so that I can use it again. Anybody have any questions so far? Let's see. Terry says, love when you give us ideas on how to break up a foundation stamp. For more ideas. Yes, Terry, you would be amazed at how you can break these things up and use them individually. And don't put it away because you're not using the whole thing. You know, you don't have to use the whole thing. Most of the time we don't. Most of the time we break it up and use it in different parts, which is the really fun thing about this technique. It's one of the funnest things about it, is finding things that you can add and sort of mix and match. And it's really fun to do. Julie says, beautiful card and scene. We'll have to watch later, Julie. Okay, well, thanks for being on with us, and we totally understand. You will be entered in the drawing. So that reminds me, you guys, be sure to put that in the comments if you want to be entered to win this little card with this little painting in it. Okay, Debbie says, how tall is that fence? So let me see. It is just at the tallest point. It is a little over an inch. So it's about 1.125" is about how tall it is here. And then it goes, it's about, it goes clear to here. It's about 2.5 inches long on here. But if you don't have this one, a fence is very easy to pencil in. Honestly, you guys, it really is. I mean, this is so much quicker and easier, but if you don't have a fence, you just need to make these posts, and they're about 1/8 of an inch wide. You can make it straight across also. It doesn't have to angle up. You can make it straight across. You want to make the two beams that go across like this, and the posts that go across like this. Just make 3 posts and then draw your beams across. You can easily do that. Okay. Let's see. Dominique, welcome. Welcome. Good to have you on here. Let's see. Anybody else have any questions? Terry says, learning that more and more. Good, you guys. I want you to learn something every day. I really do. It's my goal. That I teach you something new every day. Okay, so let's just get to it here. I'm going to just see if I can zoom in a little closer and still keep my palette in here. See if I can just stay in the screen. And then get my palette. Okay, and I think this will work. All right, so here's the thing is, if we break it down, this is not intimidating at all. If we break it down and we start with one thing and we just kind of go from there. So let's get our perspective in first, and let's put in our background. And the background, you guys, honestly, is easily something like this is the background. Like, honestly, that's it. Or the reverse. You can do it like this too, and you can add something even farther back in here. But you just sort of build these these backgrounds like this. Like, that's really about it. And they sort of come through, and as they go back, they get smaller and smaller. But to do a background is just, there's literally nothing to it. So don't be intimidated by that. But it does help you to kind of see the perspective of where everything is going. So we've got this little hill back here, and then we've got another one that sort of, can come up like this. And there we go as far as our background goes. So now we kind of know where our tree is going to go. It's probably going to end up somewhere about this distance. We're going to put our fence in. And then all this area is going to be grasses and some little florals in here. And as far as the foreground goes, we can put in just, kind of pencil in a little, walkway here. And this, because we're just putting in these florals, we don't really need to have any ground in here. We don't really need to have anything like that. Okay, so let's get going here. And we're going to just start out by, let's just do this little house. And that will kind of give us a good start. And we'll just kind of go from there. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to add some color to our palette. And I'm going to use this really pretty 173. When you're doing something that has a lot of bright colors, obviously the pinks and the yellows, but nothing will brighten up your little scene like this green will. This little fluorescent green, this 173, it's a little whimsical, but it just brightens everything up. If you like, these bright colors and you want to send a happy scene to someone, use this bright green somewhere in it. And the roof is a great place to put it. It really is. It's kind of whimsical, but it's so cute, and it really it adds to the brightness of the composition. And then we've got our bright pink in here and our yellows, and we've got a really happy little scene. Like Bob Ross, a happy little mistake, a happy little scene. It's exactly right. That's what it gives you when you look at it, when you're using these bright colors. It's just sort of, sending something cheerful to someone who probably needs a little cheer in their life, for sure. Okay, so let's get out. We need a little bit of brown. You can make the brown. I just made the door and the little chimneys brown with this, but again, you can make them whatever color you want. This is the 947 warm brown. We need some of this color. This is the 312. This is a combination of a warm blue and a green. It's just a great color, and it's really nice for things that sort of fade out in the background. And here's what it looks like. And it's got a little more blue to it. So in other words, if you were going to combine these two and you had more blue than green, you're going to get something like this. If you add a little more green to it, it's going to be a little, obviously a little greener. So you can do, so here, let me just show you what I mean. So if you add some green to it, you can see the change in the color. You see how that changes that up from more blue to a more green. And it's a really nice color combination. Look how pretty that is. It's such a beautiful teal color, especially for something in the background. And then this is just that straight color. See how much bluer that is? And I hope you can see that on the camera, but this is much bluer, you know, as it sort of goes off in the distance. So always keep that in mind when you're mixing your colors and you're putting them on your palette, that adding a little extra color to it will completely change that look. All right, so we've got that color on here. Let's see, what else do we need for the house? We need some blue for a shadow. So we need the 565. This is just a great shadow color. And 565, and let me put this number on here because this is a really great pen. This is a 312. That is a great pen to have. All right, I think we're ready to start on this little house. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to pull the color out of the lines, and we're just going to drag that color down, and that will bring up this piece. So when the color is underneath, it's going to lift that little section up just by putting that color underneath. See how that brought this forward? Same here. That's why we pull the color out from under it. I've got this here too. There's going to be a little shadow under these little, window frames inside the door. It's going to be a little shadow there. And now you can see that has already changed. You can see that looks way more three-dimensional now. And let's just do a little bit in the windows. And same here. Okay? And you know what, we might as well just go on and do this here. And again, we want this edge to come forward. So in that case, the color is underneath. We're pulling that color out from under it. And you can see that just brings that lip forward. If we want it to go back, we're going to pull the color out from the other side. And then this would look like so if we pulled the color here, that would drop this section back, and it would just do the opposite. Same here, pulling the color from underneath, and that brings these sections forward. Now here with this one, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. So this is coming out and this is going back in. And our little fences, the shadow is always underneath. Anytime that you have something that, runs horizontal like this, the highlight is at the top. It's always at the top. Might as well just do these little sections also. And then in here, this is going to be water inside here, so we don't have to really do too much. But you can see how if we want this strip to come forward, now we add that color to the other side of it, and now this whole edge comes forward. So it's just really important to pay attention to that when you're pulling the color out. Never color on the line. Ever color directly on the line. You're either pulling it one direction or another. Depending on where you want that, which section you want to come forward. Okay, so we've got that done pretty much, so we can kind of see what's happening here. So let's just start adding some color to this little house. And we're just going to brush it on. Look at this bright green. It's just so cute. It is so cute. And just brush it on. There's not a lot of the roof line here, so we don't have to worry too much about, you know, are there highlights, what's happening here. You can always just leave the top edge just a little bit lighter. That's always a good idea if you can do that. You know, so kind of let the sun and the light kind of catch on that area. And then we'll come back in and add some details, you know, at the end. Okay, so now let's get some of this color and we'll get this door colored in. And if you happen to, you know, color over some of these tiny little details, you can put those back in with your twin tone. Tony says, thanks for all the tips today. You are so welcome. You're welcome. Sandy says, love the colors. You know, when I'm using bright colors, who do I hear over my shoulder? Good job, Mom, from Kim. She is the bright color queen. She really is, but she is much more of an, you know, extrovert than I am, much more outgoing. And so she loves those bright colors. And I, you know, tend to go more to the subdued colors. But I do love these too, especially spring and the florals, you know. So cute. All right, so, you know, we're getting the little chimneys here. We're getting these done. We can add, you know, a little darker color to these later. So we're pretty much done with that. So let's just get our shadow in, and then we'll get some details into this part of the house and our window panes too. So we're gonna get this shadow in and just pick a side. You know, this is kind of a front facing, you know, little cottage. So it really doesn't matter what side you pick to put the shadow under. You know, you could do it on this side or this side. But it's really important to get that shadow in there. And then we also want to come in here and get this shadow in the door. This is also just really important to do because that pushes that door back inside. And then let's just get the side of these chimneys. We can see both of them on here. And we'll just get a little shadow on there too. Okay, so I'm gonna take my, my bullet tip now, my yellow, and this is the 993. You can use this one. You can also use this one. This is the 55. This one is also really pretty. This is more of a lemon yellow. You can see one is warmer than the other. And this one always looks gold on the screen, but it's a beautiful color. It's just a beautiful yellow. So you can make, you know, the details in your windows just however you want. You know, the yellow is, this yellow is a little darker, so you really don't have to go over it too many times. And again, you know, doesn't have to be perfect. And then let's do this one up here. Maybe this one just has 4 little window panes. Like so. You could also use the dark brown. You could use the blue. You could use, you know, whatever you want in there as far as color. So now let's do the little lines in here. And you can make these as wide as you want. So let's try to keep this straight here. We'll just get these little lines in here. Pretty, you know, just make it pretty light. Don't make it too dark. In here, just like that. Just adds a cute little detail to that. And then let's get just a little, let's pull a little of this color out to just sort of mess up the white a little bit on the house so it doesn't look too stark white. And then we're going to be adding, you know, some foliage and some foliage around it too. So, okay, you could put some little shutters on here too if you want to. That'd be really cute. Just, you know, bright color, maybe, you know, some pink shutters, just whatever, however you wanna do it. Let's put a little detail in here into the door. This door look a little rustic. and then we'll put the little door handle back in. We could make, you know, some little hardware on here too, if you want to. Darken that, and then this, we can really darken this, you know, up here in the corner. And then, you know, on the side of the chimney, we can sort of make that a little darker too. Okay, and all these details just, you know, they really make a difference. All right, I'm going to come in here now and do one more thing, and I'm going to add just a little shadow to the window, and it just tucks it back inside. Same up here. Just a little shadow on the top of that window. Okay, so now since we're in the blue, we might as well just do the sky in the background. And so we just brush this in, you know, just however. And, you know, leave a little white space too, especially where you're going to put that tree, because we don't want to have to fight too much color. We want to really see that dark blue or that dark pink. And we can just kind of add a little darker color in there. Okay, so now let's do, let's get this background color in, and let's just take a little of this and we'll just brush some of this color in background. And then maybe we'll just take some of this green. It's really pretty green. You can see the difference in the colors now between that blue, adding that green to that really pretty 312. Okay, so let's just keep going here. Let's go down and let's do the little bird bath and the birds. And then we can just kind of fill in everything else. So let's add a little of this light blue to the palette. Keep this all in the frame here. So let's add some of this color. This is a 526. I love this color too. I just, you know, have my favorite go-tos that I just love. So we're going to add some water from this blue. So this is a 565, and just, you know, keep your hands straight as you're, you know, you're putting this water in. So a straight line across the back. And if you can keep, you know, some little white spaces, that's always a win. It's always a win. You can go back in and you can add that with your white paint also. So if you weren't able to get any white sections on here, you can get that with the white paint. Okay, so I'm going to just take some of this color really lightly, and I'm just going to add it to this little bird bath, just to kind of give it a different look. And then it's, you know, it's rounded, so it's going to be darker over here on the edge. And just, you know, when you apply the color, you always want to just pinch it off and then kind of drag it to the center. And under here, you know, there's going to be a shadow, you know, under this little lip. And then over here, you know, even though it's, you know, doesn't really have a color on it, it's still going to have just a little bit of color on the edge. And over here too. And then you know, as far as the birds, you can make them whatever color you want. Whatever birds are in your backyard, you can color them. And I'm just using the yellow, the 993, and that really pretty warm blue. So I'm just taking a little bit of this. Make sure your brush isn't too wet, and just put this color on. Keep it really light, obviously, you know, by the head. So the darkest color is going to be, you know, where the wings are and the tail. And then you just put a little bit of color over by the head. And this little guy too. Just really lightly at first, and then try, you know, you don't have to get the dark color right away. Just keep layering that color on rather than trying to just get it dark in the first pass. And then just take a little bit of this really pretty blue and get their little bellies. Okay, I'm just going to get this just a little bit darker in here, inside there. Okay, so now let's get the twin tone and let's get the little features in. So, you know, the eyes are really tiny. You don't want to overdo the eyes. So just a little dot. And, you know, as far as the beak goes too, it's literally just a line. I mean, it's pretty much just a line. And, you know, if you want to darken in the feet, I would just recommend you do that with a pencil, not with a marker. It gets too dark. But a pencil will just darken their little feet. So cute. And let's get just a little more color on their little bellies. Okay, so we've pretty much got that finished. Let's put the tree in and we'll get that done. So here it is. And I, you know, it was a little long for this block, so I put it on here diagonally. I do this all the time. And I can see that it's going to be a little bit long for this section and where I want to put it. So I'm just going to use part of this little trunk. So I'm only going to go down about this far. I don't need to use this whole thing. So let's just use the brown. And this is the dark brown, the 969. And I think down to about there ought to be just about right. And I wonder if I should stamp it off maybe just one time. Stamp it off once. And then let's put it right about here. I think that will be just perfect. And then you can just kind of come in here and just darken that, you know, the tree trunk. You know, it's got a lot of little lines in here so that you've got plenty of color, and then you can add some color to it after too. So let's put in the foliage, and we're using the bright pink. So this is the 725. This is bright pink. I love this color, so cute. So we're going to ink this up, and we're just going to start, you know, stamping this in. You know, just like this. And then you can flip this around. So take it and then flip it around and do the other side. And if it goes off the page, you know, obviously that's totally fine. It goes off the page. Let's just get another little one in here. And then we'll just get a little more in the center and get this a little darker in here. You know, as the leaves kind of spread out, it's a little bit lighter. And then you can take your twin tone and you can kind of, you know, put in a few more little branches if you want to. A few more up in here or in here. And then you can also add some more lines to the tree. And just sort of darken it like that. And then we just add a little water to it. And especially in the center, you can see how much darker it is in the center. And that's really what we want. We want to see it darker in the center and then light as it kind of goes out into the branches. This little foliage stamp just works so great on this. So there's a little cherry blossom or dogwood, probably cherry blossom. Those are so pretty, pink. Okay, so now let's keep going. Let's get in our background, our flowers and foliage. So I'm gonna kind of move this aside for now. And grab the little grass and this little background stamp and this one, the little branch. So let's put this one, let's do this one first, this one in the background. So what we need to do, we really need to kind of cover this tree and cover the house, because you can see how long this is, and it's really easy to get it onto your structure and get it where you don't want it. So I'm going to just take some of this Post-it tape and easily just cover this. You know, it's easy to kind of cover that one. And then I'm going to just cover this side as well over here. So, and now this little tree trunk, we just really want to cover that trunk. So I'm just going to take a scissors and just cut a little strip like this. And just put that on the tree trunk. So just like that. And then you're covered, you know, as far as stamping this. So we're going to just add some of this. We're going to use this warm green, so the 177. And however you know you want to do it, you know, you can just ink part of it and just tap it in a bunch of times, which is what I usually do. And that's it. And we've got it, you know, exactly where we want it. I'm going to go ahead and add the water to this before I pull that tape off. And just, you know, touch it up. Leave some light spaces. But this little, you know, hedge or little row, it's so cute. And you can add a little texture to the background as well. So let's just put a little of this green. So this is the 177. So you can add just a little bit of this green and make something a little more, you know, like a little something growing over there, maybe a little garden. And then let's take this off. And so you can see we've just protected our little tree and didn't stamp over the top. And then we can come in now with our grasses and vines. So we've got some vines growing up over the house, and we can use that same green again. You guys, yes, keep putting that on there. If you want to be in the drawing, we'll be giving this away. So be sure to do that. Just put in the drawing, just put in the comments that you want to be entered in the drawing. All right, so I'm going to take my little vine, and I'm just going to kind of grow it up, you know, kind of on the house like this. And then I can just kind of, you know, turn it a little bit like this so that I've got a little vine that's just kind of growing up like that. And then let's just put a little bush in here. And you just tip, you know, you're just inking the very tip. So just this part is, you know, all you have to ink on here. So let's just get a little bit more in here like that. And then we just add a little water to it. Kind of grow it up over the little cottage. Like this. And like this. Can kind of drag this out a little bit too. And, you know, we're going to add a little more color in here because we want to be able to see that fence. So when we add that white fence in, we want to be able to see it really pop out. And you can't if there's no color behind it. So I'm going to just, you know, put in a little bit more color in here in the background. Just brush in a little bit more. Don't come too close to the little birds. You know, don't come too close with this color. You know, let there be, you know, a space, especially where their little faces are. So you always want to keep this, obviously keep the faces light, but keep the area around the faces. You want to keep that area light too. So there shouldn't be color that comes directly to the little birds. You don't want to ever bring that color directly to their little faces, even if it's behind them. So I'm just taking a little bit more of this green and just brushing in this little area back here. And then we can now do the grass. So we'll put the little grasses in. We're going to use that same green again, and you can mix the greens up too. If you want to do, if you want to use the other green, you can. So we're just going to kind of go up like this, and then we're just going to kind of extend this grass over, because this is where our little fence is going to go. And same over here. But you know, never stress out about this. You know, for some reason it always comes together when you're using the little grasses and the vines, especially if you add a little white paint to it and put some, you know, little white flowers in or pink flowers in. It tends to just come together. Let's just do this little detail on here too, on this side. Or kind of come down. It just looks like a little garden being planted back here. And over here too. Well, it makes it look a little more cottagey. Okay, so now let's do this area where the fence is. And we're gonna just take the little branch, this one right here, and we're gonna use the brown. So the brown, the 969. And we're just going to ink it, and we're just going to kind of grow it at an angle, you know, like this. Just kind of, you know, kind of lean it over and just grow this angle, you know, as you're kind of going along. And you can see that it kind of, you know, leaves space in between so that you can just add your foliage to it. It works really well. And then you just take the tip again of your little vine, same green. And just think about extending, you know, some of these little branches. Just think about extending them. You know, this one kind of up here, you know, another one over here. And then we can just move over to these. And let's just add, you know, maybe we just add something over here too. And then just add water, just dab, just touch it. And that brown will kind of blend in a little bit. And it just kind of makes it look a little more natural. Okay, pull some of this green kind of behind the post a little bit. And then underneath here, we're going to put some grass. Grass kind of finishes up everything. Just completes the picture. And honestly, what you don't want to do is make a straight line across the bottom of your fence. You really don't want to do that. You want to kind of come down like this. It makes it all sort of flow down. And it looks so much more realistic to do it that way. And you can drag this color down too. And it kind of looks like the grasses are just kind of growing around these posts. And then this just kind of keeps extending forward. Like so. And then let's take a little bit of the blue and we'll just put a little shadow underneath these posts. Like so. And then we're going to add our florals, you know, in the bottom down here. So we don't want to add too much color down here. We want those to be really bright and just kind of, you know, really pop. So let's see. Let's do our little pink flowers back in the background. When you're doing something really tiny like this in the background, use your bullet tip and just make these little dots in here. So just make a series of little dots. You know, in these little bushes, if you want these little bright florals in the background, because they're it's so small to just use a stamp, and this works really well. And then just add a little water to it. Just a little tiny bit, and just kind of blend that color out. You know, it's the same ink, so it's going to have the same effect as a stamp. And so you've got these little blossoms because you don't want to see the detail. You wouldn't see the detail this far back. But look how cute that is. Just really simple and just so easy to do. So easy. Okay, so let's get some florals in here now, down here in the bottom. Actually, let's just put a little shadow now that I see this underneath that little board under there. So let's get our little heart-shaped florals in, and we're going to ink the whole thing. And you're just going to kind of stamp this, just, you know, kind of in a circle, just kind of up and down. This is just such a cute little stamp. It works great. And I'll just get all these little florals in here. And then just kind of hit it with the water. And you can still see the detail a little bit. You're not going to see a ton, you know, from this distance, but you can still make out some of the details from the little hearts. Okay, so now let's put these little flowers in, and I think I'm going to just drop this down a little bit. Drop my paper down so I have a little more space to put those florals in. And then I can easily just erase my pencil line. Okay, so we're going to take this floral, and we're going to use the purple now. So this is the 636 purple and the 177 green. So let's get the little vines in. I'll just get these little vines in like this. You can use your positioner too if you're, you know, kind of concerned about where you're going to be stamping this. Use your stamp positioner, and then you'll get it, you know, exactly where you want it. So I'm just going to kind of, you know, eyeball it, and I'm just going to kind of swing it over like this, and then maybe we'll just get, you know, a couple more in here. So let's just get these two. Yep, that looks pretty good. So we're just going to take a brush and just get a little tiny bit of water. You don't want them to be blobs, so you want to be able to see the definition of the petals. And then you don't want to do anything to the stems. So just leave the stems as they are. You don't have to do a single thing with those. Okay, let's see. What else do we need to do other than the white paint? I think we're ready to do the white paint. Let's erase the pencil lines in the background. Let's see, where is the pencil? Here it is. So let's just take these lines out back here. Most of the time the paint will just cover that up and you won't be able to see it at all. It'll just be gone. But if you can see it, you know, and like these, we want to leave those on because that's the detail of the house. And let's just take, let's see how thin this is. let's just put some little detail into, and I'm just barely pressing on here because I don't want this to be too dark and the lines too thick, but cute. That's really cute. Okay, so now let's take this off. Let's take the mask off and do the big reveal. So cute. And let's move this out of the way. And then we'll get the white paint on here. And we will be finished with this project, you guys. We'll be finished. So I've got my paint, and I'm going to use my small brush. So my little number 1. And I'm just going to dip it in here. Bring it over to the side. So that I can make my little florals. And just tiny. You know, these ones in the background are going to be pretty small. But they really show up, you know, in the dark colors. And I still want to put that fence in, so I don't want to put too many of these in yet. Let's do the fence first. So we're just going to make our little posts. And just make sure that your paint is thin enough that you can move the paint. So let's make this one back here. So we'll put this in like this. Like so, and we'll get some more of these little florals in. And we put a few back here in the background. Put some on this little climber. And, you know, we can put a few just down here in the grass. I have these little white dots look literally everywhere when I do these little projects. They're just so cute. And then we're going to put them on here. These little white, like little white climbing roses. And of course, you know, we've got some down here too. So cute. And then here's where you can add just a little bit of this white into the water. If you didn't get that in there. You could, you know, you can always add a little white to your tree to kind of brighten it up. I think, let's just add a little detail on here. Onto that little post. And I think we are about finished with this. If you messed up your windows, you can also go in here and, you know, even them up, which is usually me. Trying to get these even. And I think that's it, you guys. We did it. How cute. Just a little highlight on here. Maybe we just get a little highlight on here. And here too. Okay, and we are finished. So I'm going to sign this. So I'm going to erase the pencil lines, and I'm going to sign this one. Diane says, such a sweet little scene. Could watch you paint all day. You guys, this is so much fun. Thanks, Diane. That is quite a compliment. Ruth Ann says, thank you for another delightful morning learning from you. You guys, that is just the absolute best compliments, you guys. They really are. Okay. Take away the line. And remember you can extend this out as far as you want to. You can make this little, painting as big as you want to. Easy to extend it out. Okay, so I will just sign this. And we will be giving this away to the winner. So be sure to put that in your comments that you would like to be in the drawing, and you will be in the drawing. Leah will pick a winner, and it could be you. So let me switch back so that I can say hello and goodbye to all of you and tell you thank you so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me today. This was a really fun one. I hope you guys give it a try. Think about these scenes that you have. Think about these complex stamps that have multiple pots on them, shelves, things like that that you can use in different ways. You can take a small part of your stamp because you're using a marker, and you can just ink that small part. Use your stamp platform or use your positioner, and you'll be amazed what you can come up with. So I hope I inspired you today, and I had a great time spending it with you guys. Thank you so much.